Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashatade Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining us for 60th episode, if I'm correct. The 60th episode. I तुम set करते हो या तुम्हें पता नहीं. Whatever number the episode is, I don't know myself. So we are on the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, titled as Devotional Service, where yesterday we discussed about Arjuna asking a question in the first verse of the 12th chapter, my dear Lord, what is best, worshipping of your impersonal form or the personal form? And Lord Shri Krishna began to answer thereafter from the second verse onwards, Arjuna, personal form, impersonal form, just impossible. And there in the fifth verse, which has a very important purport about Sagun and Nirgun, and the importance of deity worship is highlighted. At the end of it, there was something very important mentioned. The last few lines of the purport again of the fifth verse. Thus, the process of centering attention on the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in the sage. It is not advisable by Lord Krishna. Like that, Srila Prabhupada mentions. And yesterday, before concluding, we were talking about the importance of deity worship for everyone. Just 1 second. Yeah, thank you. All right, so let's begin our discussion for today. 6th and the 7th verse. Ye tu sarvani karmani mayi sanyasya matparaha anyeneva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate teshamaham samudharta mrityu samsara sagarat bhavami nachirat partha maya veshita chetasam. So now Lord Shri Krishna speaks about the practice of Bhakti Yoga. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating on me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pratha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. All right, long purport. Let's take a look. Purport, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Purport. It is explicitly stated here that the devotees are very fortunate to be delivered very soon from the material existence by the Lord. In pure devotion service, one comes to the realization that God is great and the individual soul is subordinate to Him. His duty is to render service to the Lord. And if he does not, then he will render service to Maya. As stated before, the Supreme Lord can be appreciated only by devotional service. Therefore, one should be fully devoted. One should fix his mind fully on Krishna in order to achieve him. One should work only for Krishna. It does not matter what kind of work one engages, but that work should be done only for Krishna. That is the standard of devotional service. The devotee does not desire any achievement other than pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His life's mission is to please Krishna, and he can sacrifice everything for Krishna's satisfaction, just as Arjuna did in the battle of Kurukshetra. The process is very simple. One can devote himself in his occupation and engage at the same time in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Such transcendental chanting attracts the devotees to the personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord herein promises that without delay he will deliver a pure devotee thus engaged from the ocean of material existence. Those who advance in yoga practice can willfully transfer the soul to whatever planet they like by the yoga process. And others take the opportunity in various ways. But as far as the devotee is concerned, it is clearly stated here that the Lord Himself takes him. The devotee does not need to wait to become very experienced in order to transfer himself to the spiritual sky. In the Vara Purana, this verse appears. Nayami paramam sthanam archaradir gatim vina garuda skandam aropya yaticham anivaritaha. The purport of this verse is that a devotee does not need to practice Ashtanga Yoga in order to transfer his soul to the spiritual planets. The responsibility is taken by the Lord Himself. He clearly states here that He Himself becomes the deliverer. A child is completely cared for by parents, thus his position is secure. Similarly, a devotee does not need to endeavor to transfer himself by yoga practice to the planets. Rather, the Supreme Lord, by His great mercy, comes at once, riding on His bird carrier Garuda, and at once deliver the devotee from material existence. Example, Gajendra. Although a man who has fallen in the ocean may struggle very hard, may be very expert in swimming, he cannot save himself. But if someone comes and picks him up from the water, then he is easily rescued. Similarly, the Lord picks up the devotee from this material existence. One simply has to practice the easy process of Krishna consciousness and fully engage himself in devotional service. Any intelligent man should always prefer the process of devotional service to all other paths. In the Narayaniya, this is confirmed as follows: Yavai sadhana sampattihi purushat chatushtai taya vina tadapnoti naro narayana ashreya. The purport of this verse is that one should not engage in the different processes of fruitive activities or cultivate knowledge by the mental speculative process. One who is devoted to the Supreme Personality can attain all the benefits derived from other yogic processes. Speculation, rituals, sacrifice, charities, etc. That is a specific benediction of devotional service. Simply by chanting the holy names of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. A devotee of the Lord can approach the supreme destination easily and happily. But this destination cannot be approached by any of the process of religion. The conclusion of Bhagavad Gita stated in the 18th chapter, Sarvadharman Pratijamamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayashyami Ma Suchaha. One should give up all of the process of self-realization, simply execute devotion, service, and Krishna consciousness. That will enable one to reach the highest perfection of life. There is no need for one to consider the sinful actions of his past life, because the Supreme Lord fully takes charge of him. Therefore, one should not futilely try to deliver himself in spiritual realization. Let everyone take shelter of the Supreme Omnipotent Godhead Krishna. That is the highest perfection of life. So 6th and 7th verse. Hare Krishna. Big machar. Anyways, they look like little dragons, huh? I believe the idea of dragon came from those mosquitoes only. Anyways, so the 6th and 7th verse, Krishna is giving an assurance once again. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotion service, always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, Krishna says, I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. This is another verse where Krishna is giving assurance. What is that? 9th chapter, verse number 22. Ye jana parupasate. Right? No. That's the verse. What is that? Begins with Ananya Chintanto Mam Ye Jana Parupasate Tesham Nityabhuktanam Yogashemam Vaham. If you want, you can mark it, verses where Krishna gives assurance. All right, let's go ahead. Text number 8. Now, yeah. So 8 to verse number 12 forms a section of verses actually, which is a very important section. So now, 8th verse, now after describing in the 6th and 7th verse, one who worships me, engages into me, absorbs his mind into me, etc. I am the swift deliverer. Now Krishna speaks about different gradations of absorptions by different individuals. According to Varnashrama. So text number 8 talks about the highest, complete absorption of the Lord, which is in our context of Varnashrama, if you see, it is something which is a platform of sannyas, but it is not limited to sannyasi. It could have, anyone can have it, but just to do a classification that way, that would make us less insecure. अरे ब्रह्मचारी हूँ अभी तक absorption नहीं आया. So you'll be comfortable with that way. Text number 8. Mayeva mana adasva mayi buddhim niveshaya niveshasi mayeva ataha urdhvam samshaya. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality regarded, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. Mayeva mana adasva may buddhim niveshaya, and absorb your intelligence or engage your intelligence. Absorb your mind and engage your intelligence. Function of intelligence is to make a decision, discrimination. So intelligence, which means how to serve Krishna. How to engage in Krishna service, how to engage others in Krishna service. That's a constant meditation. Just like we sing, Samsara Dava Nanaleda Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatvam. If you look at each of the stanzas, it's talking about the particular quality of Guru. And if you look at it from this context, you will see it's all talking about his absorption, which culminates at, what is that, the 5th shloka? Shiradika Madhavayurapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupanamna Pratikshana Swadanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. And then the next verse talks about, how expert my spiritual master in serving the Lordship. That's a point. So the intelligence is always engaged in serving the Lord, finding out newer and newer ways how to engage in the service, and also create an opportunity for others to engage. Purport. Okay, let somebody else read out. Krishna Chandrapur, bring a reading. And others who would like to read, they can raise their hands also.
Purport. One who is engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service lives in a direct relationship with the Supreme Lord. So there is no doubt that his position is transcendental from the very beginning. A devotee does not live on the material plane. He lives in Krishna. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. Therefore, when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, Krishna and his internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. When he offers Krishna food, Krishna directly accepts these eatables, and the devotee becomes Krishnaized by eating the remnants. One who does not engage in such service cannot understand how this is so, although this is a process recommended in the Bhagavad Gita and in other Vedic literatures.
Okay, well, if you cannot do that at all times, family responsibility, this and that, so many distractions if we have, all right. Okay, if you can't do this, let's go to the next level. Text number 9. Atha chittam samadhatum na shaknosi mahi sthiram abhyasu yoge na tato mam ichhaptum dhananjaya. Mam ichhaptum, at least मुझे प्राप्त करने की इच्छा तो रखो. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. So this is sadhaka stage. all of us, brahmachari, grahasthas, whatever situation we are, you know. So this is said to be a sadhaka stage. At least develop a desire to attain me. And Prabhupada in the purport talks about the sadhana bhakti. All right, Ravi Prabhu, your hand is up. Go ahead and read purport. Nothing is audible.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Now is audible. Go ahead.
Thank you. Purport. In this verse, two different processes of Bhakti Yoga are indicated. The first applies to one who has actually developed an attachment for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by transcendental love. And the other is for one who has not developed an attachment for the Supreme Person by transcendental love. For this second class, there are different prescribed rules and regulations one can follow to be ultimately elevated to the stage of attachment to Krishna. Bhakti Yoga is the purification of the senses. At the present moment in material existence, the senses are always impure, being engaged in sense gratification. But by the practice of Bhakti Yoga, these senses can become purified. And in the purified state, they come directly in contact with the Supreme Lord. In this material existence, I may be engaged in some service to some master, but I don't really lovingly serve my master. I simply serve to get some money, and the master also is not in love. He takes service from me and pays me. So there is no question of love. But for spiritual life, one must be elevated to the pure stage of love. That stage of love can be achieved by practice of devotional service performed with the present senses. This love of God is now in a dormant state in everyone's heart, and their love of God is manifested in different ways, but it is contaminated by material association. Now the heart has to be purified of the material association, and that dormant natural love for Krishna has to be revived. That is the whole process. To practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles. One should rise early in the morning, take bath, enter the temple, and offer prayers and chant Hare Krishna. Then collect flowers to offer to the deity, cook foodstuffs to offer to the deity, take prasadam, and so on. There are various rules and regulations which one should follow, and one should constantly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. This practice can help anyone rise to the level of love of God, and then he is sure of his progress into the spiritual kingdom of God. This practice of Bhakti Yoga under the rules and regulations with the direction of a spiritual master will surely bring one to the stage of love of God. Hare Krishna.
All right. Okay. So somebody may say, हाँ समय कहाँ है? बहुत अच्छी बात है, कोई बात नहीं, कृष्ण कहते हैं next verse is for you. If we cannot do this, if we cannot practice the rules and regulation, what can you do now? Text number 10. Abhyasyapi smartosi matkarma paramo bhava madartam api karmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi. If you cannot practice the regulation of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me. Because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. So technically it is said the 8th verse is for sannyasis, 9th verse is for brahmacharis, and the 10th verse is for grahasthas. Now, how do we see it now in our today's context? And by the grace and mercy of Srila Prabhupada, everyone is offered an opportunity to engage in the rules and regulations of Bhakti Yoga. But nonetheless, at times while living as a grahastha, situation happens that life becomes extremely difficult because of too many responsibilities around. Getting up early in the morning, chanting rounds, etc., may become difficult. So what should a devotee do? And of course, you would still hopefully chant 16 rounds and whatnot. At least, if not, you can't do it, then work for Krishna. Now that's something very interesting here. Work for Krishna. It is not about dedicate the result of your work, Krishna, huh? It is said you work for Krishna. What it means, just like you're working for a master outside, he pays you something, and you earn your livelihood and you maintain yourself. Well, rather than doing that, you can take up some service in the temple, where there is some financial remuneration. But problem is the financial remuneration may not be as much as you may get outside. But now, whatever work you do, that work is entirely in the service of the Lord. Are you getting it? That is the verse. For example, let's say there is a gift stall. You can become the manager or the owner of gift stall. Govindas. These are the things which need to be done by the congregation, and that you financially get some remuneration also. Or else can be seen. If not that way, then utilize your skills in the service of the Lord. You can be employed outside, but then you use your skill set There are many devotees, for example, TOP, Temple of Vedic Planetarium. So many of our congregation are being hired by the TOP itself in different departments, in the social media department, the legality department, in the accounts department, and the architect department, and everything like that. And now you serve Krishna that way. And of course, the catch here is the financial remuneration is comparatively less as what you get outside. But this is what Krishna is saying. Okay, if you really cannot follow all the rules and regulations, at least you start working for me. Puppet. Who will read out now? Nikhil Prabhu and Mother Sonam. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Pranam.
Done.
Proper by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One who is not able even to practice the regulatory principles of Bhakti Yoga under the guidance of spiritual master can still be drawn to his perfectional stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this work has already been explained in the 55th verse of the 11th chapter. One should be sympathetic to the propagation of Krishna consciousness. There are many devotees who are engaged in the propagation of Krishna consciousness and they require help. So, even if one cannot directly practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help such work. Every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, and labor. Just as in business, one requires a place to stay, some capital to use, some labor, and some organization to expand. So the same is required in the service of Krishna. The only difference is that in materialism, one works for sense gratification. The same work, however, can be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, and that is spiritual activity. If one has sufficient money, he can help in building an office or temple for propagating Krishna consciousness, or he can help with publications. There are various fields of activity, and one should be interested in such activities. If one cannot sacrifice the results of his activities, the same person can still sacrifice some percentage to propagate Krishna consciousness. This voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one to rise to a higher state of love for God, whereupon one becomes perfect. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Interestingly, this comes higher than dedicating some part of your result in the service of the Lord. Why? Because we all are very much attached to our psychophysical nature. I like to do this, and I can only do this. How many of you can relate to yourself that we all have a very strong identification of psychophysical nature? Oh, this is what I can do it. I cannot do this thing. I can be let's say an IT engineer, for example, or I can be this and I can be that. We are too much stoop into this bodily identification. So therefore, Krishna says, all right, if not, now you work for Guru, work for Krishna. Now, when you just said work for Guru and Krishna, of course, you can be given an option to choose from, but at times may not be. Secondly, you may not have all the opportunity to execute. Of course, that doesn't happen outside also. Why to expect that in spiritual life? I can do the way I want to do it. Now, so this is one level where you start working for Krishna, and many congregation does it actually. Many congregation, they do that. They choose to live a simple life and, engage themselves in service of the Lord. Text number 11. Krishna says, okay, well, if you think you cannot work for Krishna also, then at least try to give some part of your result of your work to the service of the Lord. Text number 11. Athaitadapi asaktosi kartum adyogamashritah sarva karma phalatyagam tatha kuru yatatmavan. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act, giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. Prabhupada writes all results of your work. I don't know, let me see the Sanskrit here. Giving up all results of work, that's too much to ask for, for a conditioned soul. Just want to take a look at the Sanskrit, what word? Ataitad api, even though asakta, you are attached, which means unable, asi, kartum, to perform mad yoga mashita, in my consciousness, okay? Third line, sarva karma. Krishna says sarva karma, huh? In all the results of your work. Tataha kuru yatatmavan. Interesting, huh? Then try to act, give you all results of work and try to be self-situated. All right, puppet. Okay, some who would like to read out Okay, Mother Induradhika, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
It may be that one is unable even to sympathize with the activities of Krishna consciousness because of social, familial, or religious considerations, or because of some other impediments. If one attaches himself directly to the activities of Krishna consciousness, there may be objections from family members or so many other difficulties.
Which means somebody asks you, who is your employer? ISKCON. Hey, ISKCON क्या काम करते हो तुम? Just an example, okay, go ahead. ISKCON is not an organization where to work, we serve. But just give an example. Yeah, go ahead.
For one who has such a problem, it is advised that he sacrifice the accumulated result of his activities to some good cause. Such procedures are described in the Vedic rules. There are many descriptions of sacrifices and special functions of punya or social work in which the result of one's previous action may be applied. Thus, one may gradually become elevated to the state of knowledge. It is also found that when one who is not even interested in the activities of Krishna consciousness gives charity to some hospital or some other social institutions, he gives up the hard-earned results of his activities. That is also recommended here, because by the practice of giving up the fruits of one's activities, one is sure to purify his mind gradually, and in that purified stage of mind, one becomes able to understand Krishna consciousness. Of course, Krishna consciousness is not dependent on any other experience, because Krishna consciousness itself can purify one's mind. But if there are impediments to accepting Krishna consciousness, one may try to give up the results of his actions. In that respect, social service, community service, national service, sacrifice for one's country, etc., may be accepted so that someday one can come to the stage of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 18.46, we find that it is stated, Yatha pravartir bhutanam. If one decides to sacrifice for the supreme cause, even if he does not know that the supreme cause is Krishna, he will come gradually to understand that Krishna is the supreme cause by the sacrificial method.
Okay, I cannot give charity also, I'm too attached. All right, Krishna says, absorb your mind and engage in intelligence serving me. No, not possible for me. Okay, then to take to the sadhana bhakti, follow the rules and regulation, wake up early in the morning, take bath, chant the holy names, worship the deity, hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Only possible when we're living like a center or a brahmachari, not possible at all times. Okay, what can you do? Then work for Krishna, engage. There are so many opportunities to spread Krishna consciousness, dedicate your actions towards that direction. No, I'm too attached to the type of work I want to do it. Okay, you may find a job outside, at least gives, I was saying some, but Krishna says all. Sarva, Sarva karma phalatyagam. I'm still not able to get it how it can be all. But Krishna is saying, what can I say? Sarva karma phalatyagam. So dedicate all the results of your work in service of the Lord. No, I cannot do that also. My family would not agree, this and that, so many obligations, child care, child welfare, child marriage, child education. I mean, family planning goes on, whatnot. Of course, without responsibility. Can't happen. Theek hai. If you cannot do any of these things, at least, now Krishna says, at least give some charity to any organization, but cultivate charitable disposition. You cannot understand or underestimate how important it is to give charity regularly. You look at our Vedic culture, there are so many occasions, almost every month. There are at least multiple occasions every month where you are actually expected to give charity of grains. You're expected. This is the way of living, but people unfortunately don't do that. They think, no, mujh pe kam hai, mujh pe kam hai. They don't understand, the more you give, the more you get. You try to do that now and see how many of our parents while growing up, we saw that, सबसे पहले रोटी गाय के लिए बनाई जाती थी. आया ना? Raise your hand. Did you ever had to sleep without a food any day because, your mother was using the grains to cook it for the cow and the last roti for the dog? Ever? Why have you become so miser today? Why can't you do it? Why? And that's the reason for your suffering. That's the reason for your suffering. We pretend to be something what we are not. Look at your situation. We cannot even contribute towards prasad, distribution. That is what our unfortunate situation has come. So here Krishna says, well, if you cannot do anything, You cannot contribute the results of your, towards direct Krishna conscious activities. Okay, go and feed some food to the orphanages or to the poor, distribute something, some charity to be done. And then Krishna says, well, greater than the distribution of grains or doing the charity is cultivation of knowledge, which means come and attend the message of Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because with that, you will develop some renunciation. You'll develop some renunciation. And unless you develop some renunciation, there is no question of you looking towards the spiritual world. There is no question of looking towards the material world and even drag spiritual world towards the material world. That would be our perspective. Text number 12. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat ज्ञानाध्यानं विशिष्यते ध्यानात् कर्म फल त्यागस् त्यागाशान्ते anantaram. To give you an example, how we have got so much deviated from our Vedic culture, and how the Western cultures or religions have accepted our tradition and how they have flourished. Christian world, Christian community have this concept, what they call as monthly tithing. What is monthly tithing? Which means every church member compulsory would contribute every month. Some financial amount he has to compulsory contribute. And can you imagine through that monthly tithing, what all they do, what all? I mean, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu was sharing some statistics about how many Bhagavad Gitas we distributed. If I'm correct, it was somewhere around, let's imagine it was, I may be here and there with the number, let's imagine it was somewhere around 3 million or to 4 million Bhagavad Gitas were distributed by ISKCON, around 5 million, not 4, around 5 to 6 million Bhagavad Gita were distributed by ISKCON in 2022. And he was showing the statistics of how in the last few years we have done a wonderful job. And then he said, well, you might want to pat your back thinking that you have done such a good service. But let me tell you, what the Krishna world, how many millions and millions of Bible were distributed by the Christian world, which was somewhere more than 150 million copies. 150 million copies. I often meet people come and tell me, oh, there is so much conversion happening, this happening, that happening. Our problem now, we only love to talk. We don't want to act. When it comes to giving a charity, we are the first people who run away. Because somehow, I don't know why we have become so miser, so confused, we don't want to do it. We just expect everything to be done to us. Don't ask me what is my duty to do. You should do, you should give me. We have become a born beggars in this world where we just want to beg and ask for it. But when it comes to giving, we just cannot do it. We just cannot do it. I travel around, I meet, I don't know how and why this mentality has seeped into our consciousness, why we have become like this. We were actually givers. We used to give. We have come from the culture which gives. And now we only want to beg and beg and beg. That is what we have come to. Prabhupada had to bring the Americans and Europeans to come and show them the Krishna consciousness as a need of the hour. And then the Indians took it up. So there's a lot of work need to be done on Indians to really bring them to a certain level where they can live with dignity and integrity and have the sense of that I am something. Otherwise, people in India will continue living in insecurity and fight for petty issues and whatnot. You see around in the whole world, nowhere in the whole world people are divided on the basis of faith as much as in India. Yes or no? You are Sikh, you are Jain, you are this, you are that, I believe in this, you believe in that. And on the caste basis, whatnot, we have hundreds and hundreds of reasons to fight with each other. You go around, you go to any other country outside, people of all different faiths will stay together. But here people of whatever different faith will fight. But look at the history. History was never like that. We have become very strange personality. I've often seen, we only keep asking, give me more. But the moment somebody tells you, why don't you contribute? You see the person disappear. You don't see them anywhere around. So that's the point Krishna mentioned, text number 12. Oh, our time is up. It's already, what? The clock is good? Oh, 7 So we can read the translation and Purport will read tomorrow. If you cannot take to this practice of what? What Krishna has described so far, all the different stages, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Krishna says cultivate knowledge first. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation Oh yeah, sorry, I made it other way around. So not better than charity is cultivation knowledge. Krishna said, cultivation knowledge. Well, better than knowledge is meditation, and better than meditation, renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. How many of you agree to do charity is so difficult? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. And if you have traveled around, look around. Have you seen it? And the same individual would not mind spending tons of rupees for whatever he has to eat, whatever he has to wear, and whatnot. When it comes to giving anything, just not. And it becomes more difficult in context of ISKCON. People think, oh, ISKCON means they have enough. They can, they can take care of themselves. Many times when I'm in temple, people come and say, "Prasadam kahan milega?" मैंने कहा प्रसाद क्यों मिलेगा तुम्हें? What do you mean by प्रसाद कहाँ मिलेगा? I said, give me a reason why should you get a प्रसादम? बोले हम मंदिर आए हैं, हमें प्रसादम नहीं मिलना चाहिए क्या? मैंने कहा कहीं बोर्ड लगा हुआ है क्या, बाहर मंदिर आओगे तो प्रसाद मिलेगा तुम्हें? So I said, मंदिर के बाहर जाओ, वहां प्रसाद मिलेगा. Food for Life kitchen is there. Go outside the temple, you get प्रसाद in there. People demand. No, हम वहां नहीं खाएंगे, हमें तो बताया गया है ISKCON में फुल प्लेट प्रसाद मिलती है. मैं कहा फुल प्लेट खिचड़ी मिलेगी. So it's a strange mindset we have got it. We need to, here Krishna says, better than knowledge is meditation, better than meditation is renunciation. And for by such renunciation one can attain peace of mind. My take on this thing would be, we all should, according to your capacity, and not according to your capacity, we all should contribute that much amount which will pinch our heart. थोड़ा लगेगा कि मैं कुछ कर रहा हूँ. Please try to do this for 1 year and see the change in your consciousness. And if it doesn't make a difference, then stop doing it. But do it for 1 year at least and see how it makes a difference in your consciousness. Krishna says you can attain peace of mind. See for yourself after a year, does it make a difference or not? Now, it's a difficult experiment to do, but I leave it on to you to decide. With that, I'll conclude here for today. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining in.
जी कृष्ण, धन्यवाद।